Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Printfluencers, a Rackame sponsored podcast where we interview the movers and shakers pushing the print and mail industry forward. I'm your host, Katelin Shanks, and today I'm joined with Brad Kugler, the co founder and CEO of DirectMail 2.0. Brad, welcome to Printfluencers.
Thank you, Caitlin. It's an honor to be considered a mover and shaker in the industry. I love that. I'm a direct mail and omni-channel marketing evangelist, so just happy to be here.
I think it's a well-earned title on your part after all these years. Just diving right into, our half hour here, I want to just really go into the pivot. The print and mail industry, it's changing right before our eyes. We've got changing customer expectations, different technologies, the roller coaster, which is the USPS right now. Yes. We're living in a change moment, really. And so I think viewers would be so interested to know just how your own story of resilience and being able to pivot has changed your approach to how you approach the print and mail industry at DirectMail.
Well, it's great because to see how I got here, I came from e-commerce. I was specifically in the pre-recorded media. What is that? That's video games, DVDs, and CDs. And I would venture to bet that almost no one in the audience has any way to play or watch or has purchased a CD or DVD in years. So I watched a 25-year-old business sort of slip through my fingers. And it was through I always have responsibility, but the fact is the market was disintegrating. The price point was eroding. This business was going streaming. We made efforts to get into it. It was impossible because of the capital costs. And I knew I'd have to find something else to do. And I'll be honest, spending 25 years in a business and being on the eve of becoming 50 years old, and now you must reinvent yourself. Okay.
Yeah.
Was a scary thing. I had 3 kids in college and, a couple mortgages. And I'm like, wow, I'm going to be jobless for the first time in a quarter century. So I knew that I had to find something that was on the disruptor side of the equation and not another potential disruptee. Mm-hmm. Luckily, I had a longtime family friend in the print marketing business, Joy Genduza of Postcard Mania. And we had talked over the years, and she had seen my very nice peak and then, cresting. And I was riding this boat back to zero, and I had a bunch of things going. I had opened a couple of vape shops. I had started another retail store that we did some online sales. Things were happening, but it was still not in the world of anti-disruption. I wanted to be that disruptor. So she had this idea that they had come up with at Postcard Mania. Let's combine print and omni-channel marketing. And I thought, what a great idea. We know print, people have said, is dead, and this and that, and direct mail, it's all digital now. Let's combine the two and revive the direct mail industry. So that was the genesis that kind of sparked my new entrepreneurial spirit. And that's what led me to this chair.
Amazing.
Thank you.
And didn't you say that you kind of took yourself back to grad school on your own?
So in the months as I rode this company down back to zero from $25 million, I realized I never finished college. I jumped out of school after 2 years and took over this business from my father, who wanted to do something else. And here I am, almost 50 years old, never finished college. And I'm like, what is the business world like? I've been selling DVDs and CDs. I am a dinosaur at 49 years old. So I looked at all the MBA reading materials, all the latest business books. And I think I don't remember now because it's been a few years, but I think I read something like 37 books in like a year, business books. A lot of them like book on tape, while I was running or exercising, but this sort of kind of at least put me back into the game, So mm-hmm. I I had a basis to know what I was doing, and I know what I was looking for. I was looking for a non-disruptible or a disruptor type business with a recurring revenue model that is basically software generated. And I've always been into advertising and marketing and e-commerce and tech. So it's sort of checked all the boxes. And I'm like, all right, let's go. Let's do it, you know?
Yeah, that's where the rubber hit the road. So moving more into, our traditional, mail service providers, they've been printing and mailing for decades and decades. These are, typically generational, family-owned businesses in some aspects. And I'd imagine, especially with, the folks I talk to, they're also scared. They're looking at this changing industry and they probably have some of those similar feelings like, oh my God, this industry that was so rock solid is starting to slip through my fingers. Postage rates are going up, volumes are decreasing. So, what would you tell them when it comes to, making that pivot and finding a way back into relevancy?
I mean, that's a great point because there's so many converging points at this. Besides the fact of the technology, you have a multi-gener. Most mail service providers are multi-generational family businesses. I don't want to necessarily say mom and pops, but they've been doing this for a couple generations. The younger generation is not excited to be a manufacturer printing stuff. I mean, if I
Hmm.
was a kid coming out of college at 23, 22 years old, I'm going to take over my parents' business that's been printing postcards and letters for 50 years. It's not a real sexy industry. So one of the things is the embracing of the technology, and it's not just the omni-channel marketing. There's other points of this: variable data printing, laser jets, and at mass scale. Back 40 years ago, offset, web presses. That was it. That was the name of the game. So there's so much new technology coming in. I think it's made it a little harder for some of the older generation to actually embrace it. Um, this new generation coming in is very open to new technology. They understand the value of the variable data inkjet technology. They understand the power of digital marketing along with the print marketing. They understand that there's tracking and attribution tools that traditional print marketing or direct mail did not have 10, 15, 25 years ago. So they understand it and they embrace it quicker. And sometimes that there's a generational gap where the younger generation is schooling the older generation. And that's not in all cases. I've talked to some very astute 60 and 70-year-olds who just get it.
With it,
Okay.
yeah. Hmm.
But they're the minority, I will say. They understand what they're being told, but it's hard for someone to invest millions or tens of thousands of dollars into something they really don't fundamentally understand, or
Hmm.
so different. So there is a turning of the tide, and it's almost to the point where if you are not embracing this these smorgasbord of technologies, you are a dinosaur and you will either be gobbled up or you will be out of business or liquidated. And there's a lot of consolidation going on in the market because there are some
So
that are
much.
moving with that. And I'll tell you that the market consolidation is tough on some because if I had to make a prediction, I'll state it with a fact that I noticed. When I came into this business 7 years ago, we would buy mailing lists of mail service providers. Those lists range between 10 and 15,000 in the United States. All right.
Okay.
I buy one every year. I start my own direct mail campaign, and we bought one in December of 24 with the same criteria, and it was under 4,000. So you
Wow.
have this massive consolidation, and I think another 10 years of this, you'll probably have 80% of the commercial printing done by a couple dozen or maybe 100 different large scale printers.
Hmm. And I think that's an interesting point because even if consolidation is more or less inevitable, even being able to implement these types of technologies, these types of tools, and grow the business and position it in a way where you're getting the best bang for your buck when you do go to sell your business, I think is also valuable if you're not wanting to stay on the track of keeping your business and holding on to it.
Absolutely. Those that are not embracing the change or don't have the capital resources to invest in that change or technology, they're probably it's probably the best move to liquidate, merge, get bought out, because at least there's a life after for that owner. He can get some
Hmm.
money, move on, and he's not digging his own grave by standing in the way of the march of technology.
Yeah, definitely. So, then if I am in one of those traditional mail service providers, I'm typically have only been doing, maybe it's statement printing or mail, and I'm starting to dabble in direct mail. How do I approach getting into this new line of business and all of these different technologies? Like, where do I start?
Well, look at what obviously I think most people in the print business, because we pretty much promote to everyone, they've
Yeah,
probably gotten our promotion or seen our emails or seen us at a trade show, so they can just respond to one of those emails
there,
that we.
yeah. They start with you, I guess.
It's the easiest. But short of that, you know, I would suggest all of them to just start talking to their other people in the industry, see what they found successful. I mean, my company aside, if I was looking into a new uh, technology or a new service that I was going to provide, I would be talking to people every day. I'd be learning as much as I can. Talk to your friendly competitor printers that may not be in your market. They may be. A lot of these printers have peer groups. That's really one of the best sources to see. Keeping your ear to the rail, as they say. I would go to trade shows. As I re-educated myself to remarket myself into the business world, a giant technology shift requires the same type of re-education. All right. I think all of us are going through it with this AI shift. All right. If you're not embracing this, at least learning it, it's you're going to be left behind. And I've been around long enough to I remember the internet explosion in the late 90s, early 2000s. All right. It was a matter, there was so much new technology coming out, so many new things. It was impossible to stay up to date on that stuff. But don't let that scare you. Just learn one thing a week. Listen to the tech reports from the tech news, subscribe to a few things, and
Hmm.
you will slowly start absorbing the information, and it will become commonplace to you.
Yeah.
So it's important to stay connected to other industry sources, to the news sources, of which there's plenty. You almost have to live in a cave for it not to be exposed to it, but you still have to take that step to follow up and immerse yourself a little further. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So, I've seen these mail houses and these print shops look at omni-channel, and maybe they offer it, but it's by no means, the data analytics, multi-faceted sort of campaign orchestration that, Direct Mail 2.0 helps with. And, are you seeing the ones who have really embraced direct mail 2.0, offer that as like a new revenue stream for their clients? Kind of how have they seen success in that?
Absolutely. And I won't sit here and say that we're the only ones in the world that can do this.
Sure.
Everything we do, they can do themselves. All right. We're doing digitally targeted campaigns, geofence campaigns. We're doing call tracking. We're doing mail tracking. We're doing QR codes and record. We're using off the shelf technology, but the value add is we're bringing it all into one place with all the analytics in a white labeled environment so they can just show it right to their customer. So sure, they can go hire a couple of guys who can do everything we're doing, create custom reports for their clients and deliver them, or not to pat my own back, but you can just license our software and we'll do all the heavy lifting. All you got to do is sell it. But you talk about an additional revenue stream. Yes. And it's a pretty simple USP, universal sales position or proposition. If I could show you a 50% lift in your direct mail revenue, that's talking to a client here, an advertiser, if I can give you a 50% lift in your response rate for only a 15% lift in what you're paying, would that be worth it? It's a
Hmm.
no-brainer. So combining the digital and the print, you get a lift most of the time. Nothing's guaranteed in marketing, but you
Yeah.
usually see some kind of a lift. So if you can get a lift of 20, 30, 40% on the other side, reaching your clients, is it worth paying 10 or 15% more to get that? Usually
Hmm.
the answer is yes.
Yes, typically it should
Yeah,
be.
it, it should be, you know.
And are you starting to see, different types of industries start to pivot and build this into their, strategic plan?
Yeah. So what I've noticed, because I'm constantly trying to learn new things, I've noticed that you have companies like ours that are very industry specific. There's marketing companies that combine print with digital for auto dealerships, and they have a very specific set of benchmarks that are kind of tweaked for that industry. We've seen
Yeah.
it for nonprofits. We've seen it for new home buyers. So those companies obviously have honed it specifically for those industries. Our offering is a little more of a rinse and repeat with small tweaks for any industry. So now, if your clientele is only in the real estate industry, well, then it might be great to go with one of those companies. I'll be honest with you. If your
Hmm.
clients are across the boards, well, then maybe our offering is more correct. Again, it really depends on what your clientele base is. Uh, Nonprofits is probably one of the biggest sweet spots for direct mail, and there are a lot of companies that offer digital solutions to interchange that do social media and email for nonprofit type clients. So again, it depends on the clientele of the mail service provider where they would look.
Hmm. That makes sense. And, most of the time, these service bureaus, they have, MISs and storefronts and maybe some legacy databases that are hanging on in there and a CRM and some digital front end printers. And I mean, the list goes on and on. And they have this sort of technology stack that they're not moving away from. So how do they leverage, a direct mail 2.0 into the offering that they're selling to their clients?
That's probably the biggest hurdle because like any company, everyone wants to build sort of an automated, a rinse and repeat process that they can just scale up and do over and over again.
Yeah.
So if they've got a process internally, obviously anytime you're offering a new product line or service line that has to fit into that operational structure, it's there's a pain point. There's a friction points there because the sales guys are used to doing it this way. We're used to pitching our clients this way. We're used to delivering our reporting and our results this way. Well, obviously we come in with a fully packaged solution, and they have certain expectations that they like to see that their clients are used to. Well, how does this work if we want to do this? So there is a barrier to overcome, and a lot of times when a company is looking for change, it may require re-examining their internal processes and making changes to more easily integrate this new technology. So it's a pain point that has to be examined and decided if it's worth it.
Hmm. Definitely. I mean, that's with anything. Even just trying to replace one of those legacy systems
Oh,
is, a 2 year painful process. So I think that's with anything. Change is a
right.
good thing, but it's painful.
But the nice
Um,
thing is these are considered add-on products that don't necessarily have to
hmm.
integrate with their legacy systems. They're standalone. Our our system specifically is just a reporting dashboard that can be white labeled and shown to clients as a freestanding. But I'll tell you, some large mail service providers have their own portals,
Hmm.
and they want the clients logging into their own portal, not some other place. So for things like that, we've confronted that. We've solved it by having open APIs where they can pull the data in and build it into their own portal. So we too obviously want to work towards the customer's easy integration. So more and more is being done through APIs, so their integration is easier to integrate with their internal systems.
Okay, well, that's amazing. That actually kind of bleeds into my next topic where, software companies, we're never done. There's always a new release, a new version, new technology we're incorporating. It's almost comical. Like if you want to never be static, be in technology
Yeah.
because you will be on that hamster wheel. But from direct mail's perspective, what are you guys planning for? Are there any pivots coming in the future?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if I had to define my personal role at the company, I would sort of label it as chief product officer. I hobby horse or gravitate towards what's around the bend. What is the next product or service that we can use to improve the results of direct mail? That's what I eat for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So last summer we acquired a company called Who's Mailing What, which is a giant database of direct mail intelligence. All right. That was sort of step zero. The last year, we've also been working on a new platform called DM20.ai. What that is we're building with all this direct mail data we have. Not only do we have oodles and oodles, hundreds of thousands of different campaigns from thousands of different advertisers, we also have the results from the customer campaigns that we've managed. And when I say that with caution, we're not divulging that John Smith at 123 Main Street bought this, this, and this. What we're
Yeah.
doing is we're cohorting it by vertical, by geographical region, and we're able to match that with certain types of creatives. So I'll give you a use case of
Yeah.
what we're actually going to market with in a private beta in about 2 weeks. Imagine you're doing a direct mail campaign and you've designed this beautiful piece of creative. You've got your target list. You obviously know who you're targeting. You can come to our direct mail dm20.ai site and you can upload your PDF of your creative. You answer about 7 or 8 different questions. What verticals? When is your intended mail date? How many pieces? What type of list? Is it a house list, prospect list? Is it a purchase list? And all this is fed into our AI. And what happens is it takes what you've input and it plots it based on 80,000 other campaigns we've done and all of their results. And it shows based on this location, timing, quantity, type of mail, postage level, it will give a benchmark of where that piece will fall. We go and we look at the creative and we break it down into like 26 different attributes, okay? From
Gosh.
postcard, image to text ratio, keywords in the headline. Is there a call to action? Is there a QR code? How big is it? Is there a phone number, a URL? What are the sizes? What's the font? What are the colors? What are the background versus the text colors? I mean, you name it. Is it full bleed? We put it all together. And what happens is it spits out a result and says, hey, your campaign should perform above or below this baseline. But if you do these things, these keywords, this, and this, we would expect it would perform, 10% above baseline. All right.
Wow.
So here are 5 things to get a 20% improvement in engagement. Now, I don't know ROI, but I do know engagement. Did they scan a QR code? Did they go to the website? Did they click on informed delivery?
The first
Did they
step.
Exactly. So if that piece got people to engage and we can help change whether it's a zip code, a timing, a type of mailer, is this better as a postcard? Is it better as an envelope mailer? We have that data on 80,000 campaigns and we get more every day. So this is a constantly learning database that will then predict the output of somebody's intended mailing. So again, if you're going to spend $10,000 on a direct mail campaign and it costs you $100 to get some information across 80,000 other campaigns, is that worth it? Would you
Hmm.
would you spend 10 would you spend $100 to hopefully not lay an egg on a $10,000 campaign?
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think that's so interesting when you look at it from, the service bureaus or the mailing houses, you know, they're typically just taking the orders. They might not be doing composition or design work in-house. They're probably working with their clients who maybe have a couple of marketing folks or a graphic designer, and they're getting the fully composed pieces. Maybe they're doing some variable data and all of that before it goes to the printer, but that's typically the setup. And we're always trying to create more, stickier client relationships, move into that consultative selling where we're not just taking orders, but we're adding value. And I see if there's such an easy platform like you just described to go in ask a client, those 5 or 6 questions, upload the current design of the piece, and then to provide back as a service, this is what we would do. It kind of takes pre-press to a whole nother level.
I agree, and as much as excited as I get about this product, you know, I get asked, well, how much are you going to sell of it? I have no idea. I don't even know if anyone will spend $1. To be honest, it's never existed before. I feel a
Yeah.
little bit like Steve Jobs before he released the iPhone. This is a category that never existed.
Wow.
But I've invested thousands of hours, hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions, and I'm going to bring it to market, and I'm either going to be a hero or a zero, as they say.
Oh my gosh. I hope you have just so much Pepto Bismol and like acid reflux medicine just littered everywhere over your office, your house, because my stomach would be in knots. I do
I
think
know, I know.
what you just described is so exciting though, because it sounds easy. Even those who are not, AI or digitally savvy, I think that makes sense and is easy to navigate and, derive value from. Because I'm even thinking about, these sales guys who are out there selling, print and mail, and they're working with, substrates and different, stock types and
Yeah.
turnaround times. They haven't been selling digital. They're not necessarily so much in the consulting sales business. But if there's little services that they can add on to enhance the customer experience, make their campaigns more valuable, that might be an easy baby step into, selling the broader sort of digital direct mail stuff.
I hope you're right. I really do. And and the other thing is, this is a there's a lot of products out there that call themselves AI, but for AI, you have to be able to learn from your mistakes. You have to learn as new data comes in and adjust your output based on new data coming in. And that's really the crux of this product, because we're tracking and delivering, thousands of campaigns a month. So all that new data will re-educate and improve the results for the customers who use it. So
Mm-hmm.
and we even have plans to get feedback from the customers who use it, rate how good those recommendations were. Did you use them and did you get a good result? And then we know we can upvote those recommendations or reinforce that learning so that it continues to make the right decisions for people.
Mm-hmm. It's like when they first came out with the self-cleaning oven. This is the self-cleaning, AI model when you have that
Yes.
cyclical flow of data coming
And
back in.
that's what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to continue to learn. That's what intelligence is. It learns with continually added data. It's not static. And that this product will not be static.
Mm-hmm. Definitely not.
Yeah.
So going more into just what you see in the direct mail space. So we're talking about all the great things, the exciting things, but if you were to just wave a magic wand, what's one thing in the direct mail space that is a pain point today that you would want to change?
I don't think anything in terms of the dissemination or proliferation of the technology. It's really the people and willing to embrace change and invest in that change. So if I had to say what are the road bumps ahead? Obviously, it's the consolidation of the industry, the fluidity of the situation at the USPS. Everybody's got an idea on what should or shouldn't be happening there, and so these type of uncertainties affect the entire print industry and the direct mail market. And unfortunately, when there's uncertainties, there's stagnation. People are even more resistant to change or invest because of that concern about the future. And I like to look at things of, we can make the future by taking bold steps. And, there's always that fear, well, what if you're wrong? Well, if I'm wrong, I'm going back and I'm hitting my MBA books and I'll be learning about the next career. I don't know what to say. I still got a few more good years left in me.
Oh, that's amazing. So, when you look at, the relationship between digital and physical, like we've already seen a whole evolution there, but when you project out, this is crystal ball time. Get out the crystal ball. Where are you seeing it in the next 3 to 5 years? And how do we prepare ourselves?
Well, after the fact of the consolidation of the market, I do believe that there will be more growth in the print or tactile advertising market. Everything is so screen and digital based, there's too much noise. Now, I'm not saying that there's digital will always be here and print will always be here, but that marriage will become tighter and it will extend to further avenues, whether it's VR or it's drone advertising or digital billboards. There's so many other interaction points where you can merge offline and online. And I think you'll see more of that. You've seen some of these drone shows where you can put giant images in the sky, 2,000 times as big as a billboard. You've seen the mobile billboards that you could almost personalize as certain types of traffic comes by it at certain times of the day
Yeah.
for certain industries. So I think this sort of, you've probably seen some of these movies like Minority Report, where you walk into a store and it gives you an ad of you in that piece of clothing.
Yeah.
So these are the things that I would agree with are coming: more personalization, more instant advertising in different types of venues and locations that are hyper personalized, which again can work with the direct mail. You get your tactile thing in the mail, and then you get reminded of that as you shop, as you drive, as you eat in a restaurant.
Yeah, and I think that just gives all of these, print shops and printers and mailers the opportunity to move more upstream when they're working with their clients and to really become more integrated with the marketing departments and the digital campaigns and really tying it all together and bringing, a unique perspective and their expertise and not just being, the print shop that's printing the postcards and sending them out.
Exactly. I agree 100%. And it's why I say always be learning that next thing, so that you can take charge and maybe be the first one off the starting line with that.
Yeah, that's the goal. Well, thank you, Brad. This has been just such a great interview. Thank you for hopping on and telling us what's moving and shaking over at Direct Mail 2.0.
Absolutely, Katelin. Anytime you want to hear a prediction of the future, give me a call and I'll be first up.
I love it. Thanks, Brad. Bye,
Sure.
guys.